All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your Monday recap for April 23rd. All right, so we've got Google in front of us. Google just reported earnings, and they reported pretty good earnings. So, I always like to observe what is going on with when a company reports good numbers, bad numbers, and just how the stock reacts. I did play Google for earnings. What I decided to do was take advantage of the implied move. The market makers were implying a 5% move. I think that was a little bit higher than what they normally report. And what I did was I sold some premium. I sold some put spreads. So I'm still bullish on Google, but just didn't think or just didn't know if they were going to really have the price reaction was going to be that big to the upside. I didn't want to fade it either. I was considering an iron condor, but I just didn't want to fade Google just in case they had really good numbers. I think it's a very good company. So I sold put spreads. We'll see if that works. By Friday's expiration, I need Google to be above 1065. Right now, it's just a little bit above that, and gave back the initial reaction. But yeah, I mean, here's the historic numbers that. Oops, if I can bring this up here in Bloomberg, which it's not doing, but there we go. Yeah, so last quarter was a little bit bigger, but normally it just doesn't report. It doesn't move that much, considering the stock price is pretty high. So we'll see how that goes for tomorrow. Overall, I would say not a lot has really changed since the last couple of videos that I've sent out. We're now smack in the middle of earnings season. We got a number of names that report this week, so it's going to be choppy. I think that is expected. We see that just about every earnings quarter, especially when the big names start to report. It is a choppy time of year. This year seems more. This quarter seems more than previous ones. We're just not ready to kind of take that leg higher. A lot of names which I looked at, and not even in the same group of stocks or not even in the same sector, but just cannot really gain any upside momentum. A couple. I mean, and they're completely related names. It just shows that there's not an appetite for risk right now, and sometimes that can take a while. Sometimes it's a signal of a broader market top. I don't know yet if that's what we're seeing, but I don't like how very few names, there's not every name, but very few names were able to kind of hold the bid throughout the day. Grubhub is one of those names today that was on my radar. It was in the weekend newsletter, and was up about almost 3% at one point today, and just everything just kind of turned around. Just a couple other names that CCL was very strong. Now, CCL did come back at the end of the day, but again, you just saw everything, start to go higher and revert. So it seems like on the up days, we're challenged, and on the down days, we have no problem kind of continuing lower. So what does all this mean? And again, this is going to be a short video for tonight because the option activity is just continues to be centered around earnings. Almost every name that we've seen here, maybe CZR was a little bit different today, but just not high quality option flow. And most everything that we've seen, you look in the name reports earnings in a week. AMD, which I think actually went up against some shares in January 13th calls, but this name reports earnings this week. UCTT was another name. I think they report earnings this week or next week. So same thing with THC. Nice order options swept. You could see reports on 4:30. So, you just what I'm doing and kind of what I'm just routinely saying in the trading room is you just kind of have to be patient and let this price action work its way through. I don't mind the sideways markets, but when everything just kind of starts to move together, it's just very challenging to trade. I think sideways markets, and I said this one day or two last week when we had when we were basically just up about 20 basis points, but you had a whole bunch of sector separation. That's all I think that we really need to do well in this market is just like sideways would be okay with me. But when everything starts moving together, it's very difficult to pick stocks. It turns back to an index market, which again, I don't think that we're in. I just think you just have to be patient and let this work its way through. Looking at the S&P chart, which again, I'm looking for more stocks. I think a number of stocks are going to start to separate after earnings season, or at least a few days after earnings season. S&P, again, we did hold in here. We held the 20-day moving average by a hair. And again, this is where we kind of hit that downward trend line last week and turned around. So again, if we could just kind of hold in here this week, could set up for a nice week next week. But that's easier said than done. We've got also. Let me just go through the Nasdaq. I'll go through a couple charts here. Might as well. Nasdaq, seemed like it wanted to go higher this morning. Again, it's all you can do is kind of laugh, because and just kind of not get caught up, and really just be careful about adding trades once you see a little bit green. Like, we just haven't had that momentum to the upside. So it does feel like on a day-to-day basis, once we start to the market starts to move and the VIX starts to, the VIX did start to sell off pretty hard, which was kind of unusual to see the VIX and the VXN really start to crack here until about 11:30, and then volatility came back in. But we just haven't seen much green. That I think people are conditioned a little bit. Traders are conditioned to okay, it's like we're seeing some green, we're seeing some momentum to the upside, and I want to start buying things. I want to start to kind of set up my day a little bit, and then we've got this right around 11:20, just a complete reversion and 45 degree angle down into the right, which lasted about 4 hours, 4 hours. So. Again, I just think that right now you just have to kind of, there's these two things, and I was talking about this earlier in the trading room. It's either A, you could hedge your portfolio and kind of remain hedged until we get out of the sideways pattern for most of your positions, or just have a bigger cash position. What am I doing? I have the bigger cash position, and I'm waiting. I think the only thing I did, I traded I started a position in NTNX today. And that's it. That's the only thing I traded. I took some trades off. I got lucky on a box trade. I had just a small position left from weeks ago, and this was mentioned at the Zone conference and took off. I was able to take that trade off. But that's it. Just to kind of taking some risk off until we kind of see how the rest of this week plays out with earnings. All right. So that is it. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you back in the trading room.